Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by GamblersWorld.com and GamblersWorld.net. It is Monday, August the 13th, and you know what Mondays mean. August 14th, actually. It's 14th, yeah, August 14th. Yeah. They all blend in together when you work every day, as you well know. Mr. Doug Upstone, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ross, and what an interesting weekend of football. A lot going on. Not sure what we really know, from that standpoint, but there's a few takeaways of some things, and I actually made a couple of notes on some things that I saw. And let's see here. I know I went 1-1 on my picks. I don't recall how you did on yours. I would have gone 2-0 except for Ian Book throwing a 31-yard pick six with Baltimore in the final 5 minutes. But that's sports. That's sports betting, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I thought you were an absolute lock once they got up 20-13 because they had 271 yards of total offense the Eagles did in the first half, and they only walked away with 13 points, and they were a -2 turnover differential as well. I said, well, here we go. And then Baltimore got up, and they held them to 64 yards in the second half, and like you just touched upon, a bad beat there with that late interception for a touchdown. In any event, I went 5-2 with my free picks on the shows last week. Because I host every day. That's the reason why I had so many picks. But us as a whole, 11-5 in week one. With we covered all 16 games, and on the assigned games for each individual handicapper, we went a combined 11-5, folks. Not too bad. I went 2-0 with my premium selections in the NFL preseason. I passed on Saturday and Sunday, cashed in on Thursday and Friday. And Doug, 11-5 is not too bad for the group. But your observations and what you saw, I know you said you had some stuff written down.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of it, to be perfectly honest. Years ago, I would follow it much closer than I did. I'd watch more, I should say, than I do now. And because the thing I found, though, it was prejudicing my thoughts going into the season, which turned out not to be accurate. So now I just primarily look at the numbers and follow along with some different elements of things that I see. Let's see here. The overall favorites were 8-8. Okay, straight up, and 7-9 against the spread. The straight up winner was 16-0. Okay, from that standpoint, but was 15-1 against the spread. Okay, so I thought with Baltimore being the only loser, as it turns out. So I thought that was sort of interesting. The amount of overreaction that I read about, though, was mind-numbing. I'll just put it that way. And I will cover some of that in the game I'll be covering for Thursday night, just in a general sense. But, it's just, it's so difficult to take much of a read. And to be perfectly honest, even this week, the one thing, that's why information is going to be so important going into this week, because we're doing this, as you said, on Monday, and to learn what you can find out who's going to play once we get later in the week, what the quarterback rotations are going to be, and what teams, which they don't tell you exactly like as much as they used to, but what teams might have their biggest, might put a lot of effort into week 2 versus some teams might do week 3, so just you got to really pay attention to that.
Yeah, you mentioned it last week, and it's worth bringing up again, the different element that we have to address when handicapping the preseason as opposed to prior to 2021. With 2021, they went to a 3-game schedule, and it used to be game 3 of the 4-game schedule. It used to be the quote-unquote dress rehearsal for 90% of the teams out there. Now, it's hard to put a finger on, because I guess you can make the case week 2 would be sort of fall in line with that, but not really, because between week 3 of the NFL preseason and the beginning of the regular season, teams get a week off. And that wasn't the case before. You played week 4 to follow. Usually all of week 4 games was on a Thursday night, and then the regular season consummated or started the week after on a Thursday night, and then of course the full schedule on a Sunday. So a little different element to account for, right, Doug?
Oh, no question. And like I say, it's really changed. To me, the entire element as to how you look at this, and the results, I think, then leave themselves up to more fluctuation. Okay, just in a general sense, I mean, I could see you could do really well one week and not so well the next week. From that standpoint. So it's a little more difficult, I think. Certainly not impossible, as we talked about.
No.
You have some things, and you're still going to have some lucky wins and some bad beats along the way. But you know what? This is it definitely is more. Let's just say there's more guesswork to it, than trying to understand what coaches are saying, as opposed to during the regular season, where you just have more factual data, and that or you assume, I should say, what's going to happen when that comes about.
Well, if you need a mind reader into what the NFL coaches have to say, my wife is a good one for that. So she does have what me. But in any event, I love her dearly. You know what I'm saying, Doug. Anyway,
yes.
To go back to having success in the NFL preseason, again, folks, we talk about guesswork. We talk about the uncertainties, the miscellaneous factors that we don't have to account for during the NFL regular season. But Doug, 59% since 2007.
Yeah. Actually, I went 1-2 last week with the Baltimore situation. So not what I had hoped for, but you know what? With the preseason, I never look at it other than what the actual full season record is. Okay. Yeah. From that standpoint. So yeah. So I think this week will be, like I said, we have some information at least. So I think that would help, myself and for anybody. So yeah. It's actually just under 59% as we speak right now, the last 15 years. More than happy with that.
Yeah, any way you cut it, that'll make you a lot of money. Even though we tell you to scale back on your bets as compared to the regular season, we still want to win. We still have a track record of winning. Myself, 76-52, according to sportscapping.com since 2010. That's 59%, as I alluded to, 2-0 in week one. That makes me now 20-10 since 2021, 66.7% on my NFL preseason picks since 2021. So there you have it. We have the track record of winning. Speaking of winning, all the handicappers on the site, like I said, went 11-5 last week. And Doug is going to take a look at Friday night's game between the Cleveland Browns and the Philadelphia Eagles. That game will take place in Philadelphia, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Philly cost you a nice winner. Your only loser on the free pick last week. Right now, we're looking at, I'm sorry, the Giants game or the Giants? I'm sorry.
I got the Giants in Carolina.
Yeah, I'm getting confused here with my own stuff, so I apologize there, folks.
No.
My error. Carolina at the New York Giants, 7:35 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. The Giants right now, 3-point favorite. The total is 36.
Yes, and from that standpoint, and by the way, Ross, my heart did skip a beat when you brought up the other game. So just to be clear,
I'd like to tell you it was a prank, but it wasn't.
And so I've done that once before on this show. So I thought, oh God, I didn't do it again. But anyways, so we got that Thursday night game. It's going to be on the NFL, or it's going to be Friday night game. It's going to be on the NFL Network on that one. I think that's the only game on the network, if I'm not mistaken. 7 Eastern time. Carolina was overwhelmed by the New York Jets, 27-0, and outgained by 168 yards, which to me, though, said more about what the thinking of the New York Jets and Gang Green was, more so than what it says about the Panthers necessarily. What was interesting to me, though, I heard a fair amount of criticism about Bryce Young, the number 1 pick, okay, in the NFL draft, which I personally think is absolutely ridiculous, okay? Young is playing his absolute first game as a professional, okay, and I'll put game in quotation marks, okay, from that standpoint. The Panthers' offensive line didn't block anybody. Everything I read about, okay, this game is just, the line was horrible. And the Jets seemingly, I think, are on a ambition, and we'll find out this week how they play. But if they roll somebody again, you know what their mindset is, going into the season. But like I said, one of the things I heard over the weekend too is Bryce Young is no Patrick Mahomes with how he played as a rookie. But one thing people forget is that Patrick Mahomes was a rookie. He didn't play until the last game of the season when Kansas City had already wrapped it up. So he had a whole year to sit on the sidelines, to learn from a great coach, to learn about to learn the system, and playing on a playoff team. So the comparison between the two is just absurd, okay, to me from that standpoint. Is Bryce Young going to be a Patrick Mahomes? I'm not going to say he is, okay, from that standpoint. Completely different body type, but the overreaction I thought was ridiculous from that standpoint, and the overreaction about Carolina in general. Giants, they might have failed to win and cover their game against Detroit as a short favorite, but they held a 14-3 lead in the first half. Okay, so they lost a third quarter, and they gave up a late touchdown as well. Detroit scored at the minute 51 to go ahead to win 21-16. The Giants also gave up a 95-yard punt return. Otherwise, the Giants win and cover that game probably fairly easily. Now, in this one, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Giants have a little more juice coming into this game, now playing at home. I think their offensive line and Tommy DeVito, their, I guess, current backup quarterback, they gave up 5 sacks, okay, against Detroit. So I think that they can and will clean that up. But I also look for a lot of improvement from Carolina, because losing that badly, especially in August, if you look at the history of that, teams that lose by 20 or more points typically play much better the following week in the preseason. And I think Frank Wright will hold that team very accountable. G-Men come into this game at -3 currently. I think the line goes up by game time. Okay, from that standpoint, it wouldn't be at all surprised if it's 4. And so with that in mind, I'm going to take a look at the fact that the Giants are 1-8 recently as favorites. Carolina is 11-2 straight up and 10-2 against the spread coming off a loss. I'm going to say the Cats sneak this one out late, Ross, and find a way to win at the buzzer by a point or 2 over the New York Giants.
And I know that seems like a contrarian approach, but sometimes that's what you have to do in the preseason. The easy thing to do is say Carolina looked terrible last week. The Giants should have won the game, like Doug said, and that game was on the road. So the Giants got to be the play here. Well, not so fast, my friend. It's the NFL preseason. And even during the NFL regular season, as anybody would know who's followed the NFL from a sports betting perspective over the last 3 decades or so, the NFL is not a predictable league when it comes to week and what happened last week. And the books prey on you having that short memory to remember what happened last week. Here's an interesting thing that I dug up on my database is now the Giants, I mentioned this last week, but I have one other item that's new. The Giants were 3-0 with Dable last year to the over. They went over in their game against Detroit, and now all 4 games that Brian Dable has been an NFL head coach, all 4 have gone over the total. You go back to his days in Buffalo as an offensive coordinator. The Bills went over with regularity with him as an offensive coordinator. Road teams coming off a shutout loss in the preseason, and the total between 33.5 and 41. Have gone 8-1 to the over since 1999. So, again, that contrarian approach, Doug, where you see a team get shut out, look absolutely abysmal offensively. A lot of people would remember just that and focus in on the under here. But I'm going to focus in on the total and possibly go over the total. Right now, that's just an opinion play. The total is 36. Not like it's an extraordinarily high number, even for the preseason. So something to keep in mind there, Doug. Any thoughts in that regard? Because it more or less aligns what you're saying, taking Carolina. Giants look like the obvious play, but obvious plays lose you a lot of money sometimes.
That's exactly correct. So, no, I agree with you. I think, again, I think motivation will be a big key for both teams coming off a loss. I mean, one of the things that you see coaches do, the Giants could have won the game last week, but still, nobody wants to go 0-3, even with a shortened preseason. Okay. I mean, it's just not a number you want to put up. Just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So teams definitely want to win at every situation. And in the case here, Giants at home, I think would like to put out a good showing for their fans, at least the ones that show up, this week. And then with Carolina, like you said, after a shutout, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. So yeah, I expect Carolina to have some points, put up some points, and make this a very competitive football game.
Yeah, Daniel Jones. I don't believe he played at all last week. If he did, it was one series.
No, he did not.
He did not play. The backup for the Giants is Tyrod Taylor, the former starting quarterback for the Chargers and the Bills. Back up in Baltimore as well. So he's got a lot of experience. Again, folks, Tyrod Taylor's not going to take you to a Super Bowl, but when you put an experienced quarterback in there that's had some success in the NFL against backups, it's something to consider. Tommy DeVito, their number 3 guy, I'm not crazy about him. Didn't like him at Syracuse, my team in college football. He improved as a senior at Illinois, but that was more in line with Illinois playing better defense than his quarterback play. So we'll see. Again, Carolina, Doug likes Carolina, plus the 3 over the Giants, and that's our official pick for that game. All right, and I will be covering the Cleveland-Philadelphia game a little later today, folks. That's a Thursday night game. That's where my confusion lied there. And I'd like to tell you that was a prank on Doug to make his heart skip a beat. I knew I was doing something wrong when I saw him staring at the top of his screen. Oh, did I get this right or not? Sorry for that, Doug. That was my
no problem. We're good.
All right. Cincinnati at Atlanta is my game, also on Friday night. These are the only 2 Friday night games this week. This game goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And, here's the thing. Back in the old Atlanta right now is a 6-point favorite, and the total's 38.5. Back in the day, it used to be a golden rule that no team in the NFL preseason deserves to be a favorite, a touchdown favorite or more. Well, that trend has sort of turned a little bit, and we're seeing more of it in recent seasons, but still, I mean, I look at my database again. You have a favorite in the NFL preseason of 6 points or greater, and they're coming off a straight up an ATS win, like Atlanta is winning at Miami, and they're facing a team coming off a straight up an ATS loss, like Cincinnati, who got blown out at home by Green Bay. Those favorites are 6 or more in that situation, 14-28 against the spread. Since 1988. So again, that's a pretty decent sample size for NFL preseason action over a long period of time. And it shows that, again, that theory and that sentiment that a lot of us share about large NFL preseason favorites of a touchdown or more certainly holds true if you look at the data. And since 8/19/2010, Atlanta 6-16 straight up and 4-18 against the spread in preseason home games. So it's not like this franchise has had a heck of a lot of success. I get it. Arthur Jones is the head coach now, and he's only been there since, I believe, 2020 or 2021. So a lot of that can't be cast upon him in terms of blame. But Cincinnati also, preseason away games, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5, 8-1 against the spread in their last 9. 3-0 is a preseason dog of plus 4.5 or greater with Zach Taylor, their current head coach. Again, this looks like an obvious play. Atlanta looks so good in shutting down Miami last week, one-handedly. Cincinnati gets blown out at home. It's got to be the favorite that wins this game. Not so fast again, my friends. I'm going with Cincinnati plus the 6 at Atlanta, and Doug Upstone, he thinks the same way I am because he's going Carolina plus the 3 over the New York Giants. So there you have it, folks. Coming off an 11-5 week, we're going to be covering all 16 NFL preseason week 2 action or week 2 action. And Doug will be back with us on Thursday as we'll be covering 2 more NFL preseason picks. And Chip Chirimbus is scheduled to join us. Hopefully he can at that time. Leave it at that. And anyway, Doug, tell the folks a little bit about how you've been doing of late and what you may have coming up this week that we can look forward to.
Yes, well, the Major League Baseball continues to roll 19-8 the last 15 days. Had one tough loss in there, but in the mix. But hey, like I said, those things are going to happen, and so that's been good. So we look to continue on that path of the last couple of weeks. Like I said, NFL didn't go quite how I planned, but you know what? Like I said, this is a big week for me. Okay, because if week 3 to me, unless you find something, where that somebody's going to play, I think the last week of the preseason for me is really challenging because you have no idea what anybody's thinking about from that standpoint. So this is the big week to try and get something done as far as I'm concerned. So that's coming up. And then Ross, Canadian football, I just knew you were following the scores, and you knew that I told you last week I had my best play of the year going this week. British Columbia minus a 6.5, 37-9 winner, 9-7, up over $2,700 worth of units in the CFL right now. So now's the time to get CFL action from yours truly, because I know once college football starts, you're going to say, Doug, don't even bring up the CFL, okay? I'm doing college. I'm doing the NFL. I get it, okay? That's not a problem.
I would never tell you that.
But now's your opportunity, and I'm cashing them 9-2, okay, this season.
Yeah, 9-2. That's an excellent record in any sport. And the Edmonton Eskimos are no longer the Eskimos. They're the
Elks.
The Elks. Yeah.
Yes.
And
still E squared though.
How many games in a row have they lost at home?
I actually, even I've lost count. Okay.
Yeah, 24 straight home losses.
It's some ridiculous number, from that standpoint.
See, yeah. I know that. And I know a little bit about the CFL, buddy.
See, there you go.
I know that Doug Flutie played in the CFL at one time. Like I say, folks,
I get Johnny Manziel.
I get motion sickness. As a kid, I used to get sick on the Dixie cups because it spun around, So
okay, yeah.
When I'm CFL, where everybody's in motion, it just gives me motion sickness. Prior to the snap, 17 guys are running up. No, 12 guys running up to the line. Well, I shouldn't say 12 because the offensive lineman can't move. 12 guys on the field on both sides of the ball. The 55-yard line is midfield, and the end zones are 20 yards long. If you don't return a punt or a missed field goal out of the end zone, the kicking team gets a rouge, which is good for 1 point. I know something about CFL action. Anyway, getting back to what I really know, on a nice roll since August 5th, 15-6 in all sports. It's the NFL preseason, as I alluded to, folks, 20-10 since 2021, 59% since 2010. As documented by sportscapping.com. Again, we don't give out records on this channel unless we could back them up with documentation from an independent source. And Doug, you could find his picks at docsports.com. That's docsports.com. Check them out there. CFL picks. Very good NFL and college football handicapper. And as he alluded to, he's killing it right now in Major League Baseball, like I am as well. 12-6 with my last 18 in Major League Baseball. Doing very well, folks. So both guys, docsports.com is where you can find Doug. Gamblersworld.net, you can find me. You could also find me at my own website, rbwins.com. Both sites, guaranteed picks, single game, multi-game, daily packages, as well as subscription plans of 30 days or less, all guaranteed. If you don't make a profit according to our grading system, your account will be credited the exact amount of your purchase price. Doesn't get any better than that. Until the next time, for Doug. Whoa, hold on a second. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please take a second to do so. If you're watching on a PC, you'll see a WC logo right in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box. Click on that. It'll get you subscribed. Cost you absolutely nothing, folks. If you're watching on your mobile device, which most of you are, you'll see a black subscribe button right underneath the video box. Can't miss it. Click on that Got nothing to lose, folks. If you were with us last week, 11-5, if you've been with us for the last 3 years, we've made you a lot of money with just these free picks. So once again, and don't forget, give us a like. It's just like going to the bar and you drink all night and you enjoy yourself and they throw you a comp drink once in a while. Well, we give you comp winners once in a while. And when Doug goes to the bar and he has a few cocktails, which he's been known to do, he always gives a tip. Why shouldn't you give him a tip? And we're not even asking for money. Just hit the like button. Until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless.